Hey there, everybody. I've got a new vacuum here today. Obviously, as you can see, it's a Panasonic. It is a Panasonic Performance Plus Platinum, and it is a Tri-Force model. There's only a few little things that are cosmetic with it. Other than that, it's basically in mint condition. There's a few light scuffs right up here, and then there's this little scratch that kind of leads into this little piece here. But you can see the shine on the top of the vacuum. Like I said, you can see that the scratch right here. But let's see. You can see how well taken care of this Panasonic was. And it's in very, very, very good condition. Here's the back of it. I did wipe it down a little bit. It is, I'm going to assume it's an early 2000s, possibly a 90s model Panasonic, because it does have that older style look to it. Here's the bottom base plate. The brush roll I wiped up and I cleaned it. But before I get into, showing everything about it, I do want to talk about where I got this and how I got it. I was exploring Craigslist because I've graduated college last Friday, so I've only been a graduate for about 4 years, or 4 years, 4 days now, and this thing was kind of up. You can see the shine in it. This was up on some results when I was on Craigslist looking for apartments to rent in the area because I'm going to move out here soon. I don't know what I'm going to do with all my vacuums, and of course I added another one to that dilemma, but I saw this for sale. Probably a good hour away, which sounds absolutely insane, but I have to drive 25 minutes just to get to Walmart. When I want to go clothes shopping, like to get clothes for my graduation, I have to drive a little over an hour in order to get there. It's not a big deal. It's nothing insane to me. That's what happens when you live, in the less populated portion of the northeastern United States. And this was on there for sale. So I said to myself, what? I've always wanted a Panasonic. It was a Tri-Force model, which I really, really had always wanted. And if you remember back, for those of you who've been following me for a while, I did have a Panasonic Quiet Force upright. It was black and green, but it had a separate brush roll motor for the brush roll that you could turn off, which was nice. This does not have that. I don't know if this was made around the time that Panasonic had started doing that or not. And there was always like that weird side of Panasonic where they would create these machines that, strayed away from this general design that they had made for years. But I think that these machines are so neat looking. They really bring you back to like almost that last generation of the cookie cutter type vacuum cleaner where it just had a metal pole, a bag on it, and it was pretty flat and there was no crazy shapes or anything. It really was just built to vacuum, and they built it very well. For those of you who don't know, Panasonic was actually the first company to ever bring or introduce a clean air vacuum, the vacuum cleaner that you can buy off the shelves day in and day out today. There's only a few direct air vacuum cleaners available still, which are Oryx, and even then certain model Oryx, most of them, but they do make some clean air uprights now. Some Ricars, Kirby, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple like obvious models that do the direct air. But before the 60s, 70s, they didn't have clean air uprights. They created a design. They sold it off to Hoover, and Hoover created the Hoover Dial-O-Matic. It was not their design. They just bought the design. So you could basically clean a vacuum up anything, and it wouldn't hurt the motor. It wouldn't break the fan. But they were very underpowered because it was, the first generation. Now, before I go on a huge tangent about that, because I could go all day, my parents owned a Panasonic for years, and I imagined it to be this model, but it wasn't. It was a Panasonic Eagle Eye dirt sensor model, and it was maroon. It had a plastic handle with a D-shaped loop on the top, and they bought it from Montgomery Ward used, but they just recently had a new in-box one for like $250 on eBay. Thought about buying it, but again, it would have been more of a novelty rather than a performer, so I didn't buy it. But this one, I paid $25 for. I drove down to meet this woman. I didn't know I was meeting a woman. She was older. She had a garage sale she was getting ready to start doing stuff in tomorrow. I don't know if she's moving or not. But if you've ever seen the movies, because there's two of them, The Father of the Bride, it's Steve Martin, like where he lives on that really wide street with the big houses that like have a lot of charm, but it's those really wide streets with like the trees that kind of hang over into the street, and there's parking on both sides, but you could play a football game like in the middle of the street. That is exactly what this town looked like, this development that she lived in. It was very charming, and she was very nice. She's just like, "Oh, hey, are you so and so?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, come on." She was with her friends in the garage, but she had curlers in her hair, and she goes, "Come on, we're going to go vacuum my kitchen or vacuum my dining room." And I was like, "Okay." So I've got my mask on. So does she. We go inside. She's got like this kind of Victorian style house. And she's just like, "Okay, so here it is. I'll be honest, the last man that lived here left this here." And I did take a sticker off the front of it it was right here. You might be able to see it in the camera. Nope, not really. I guess I got it off there really good. I took that off. It was a local vacuum cleaner store that the man that had bought it from knew, because they did at one point in time sell Panasonic vacuums, and he was just not going to take it with him. And she gave me 3 bags. And she tells me, "I'm assuming he must have had an animal here because the bags had, or the vacuum bag advertisement of the plastic that the bags came in, had animals on it." I'm like, "Oh, okay, common thing. People think because it says pet vacuum or pet this or pet that, like it's actually been tested on animals. Most of the time it's a special tool that you're getting, but whatever." She was really nice. She's like, "Oh, no." I turned it on because she's like, "Okay, yep, this is how you use it. You step on the pedal and you turn it on and just push it across." And there's this little piece of paper. And she's like, "Oh, get that paper over there. And you can see how good it really does. It's really just too heavy for me." And she's like, "Go ahead and pick it up. And you'll see what I mean." And I picked it up, and I mean, this thing's not heavy. It probably weighs like 14 pounds. But she's like, "Oh, well, it's not going to be heavy for you." And she starts pointing at my arms, and I'm like, I'm basically an asparagus, but whatever. And very nice lady. She was talking to me about hospitals and things when we took this out to my car, and I thought it was kind of risky of her to just invite some stranger in, especially when her friends were outside. They probably thought she was nuts, like letting some guy in her house. But she was just a very nice lady, and she said that, she just had wanted an Orc for a long time when she lived in Washington, D.C., went out to the stores. They were $700-800. She ended up buying a Recar, she says, and bought a super light one that she can take up and down the stairs. And she said she would have kept this if she lived in a ranch style home, but she just doesn't. So how much truth is in all of that, I don't know. I don't think she was lying, but she's just a very cute, charming old lady, and she was just a joy to talk to. And I was contemplating if this was a dumb decision to drive all the way down there, my whole way there. And then I was like, once I got there, I was like, I'm really happy that I came down and just decided to pick this up because it was in great condition. Now, done with my story. This machine had a flickering light bulb, and I noticed it when I was using it. It doesn't have power surging issues or anything. I thought it might have been the bulb. So, of course, the bulb is a model that I've never heard of before. Not that I keep track of light bulbs, but this has letters in it. It's like a 1.5 or a 1T5 something or other. And it was like an idea of mine to just go over to the auto parts store and pick one up. I paid $8 for two of these bulbs that I didn't look. The prongs that it slides down into and twists and locks into place, it's like spring loaded. The prongs, instead of them being equal on both edges, one is like higher than the other. So I tried to make it work. As soon as I turned the vacuum on, I saw this bright blue burst of light, like the light blew out. I put the old one in just to keep a bulb in there, and it didn't turn on. Now, that was with the bulb just kind of hanging out so I could see if it would work. I don't know if the bulb has to be grounded or something in order for it to work, but it didn't. So, I will see if it doesn't work. I'm going to assume that that means that I must have blew the wiring for the bulb, which is not hard to replace, I wouldn't imagine. The wires are basically exposed on the underside of the vacuum. You can kind of see them if I tilt it back. The wire is, where is it? Oh, right here. I don't know if that's normal, but I believe it is. I really do, because there you can see the little wire guides for it to go into. So we are going to try this thing out on the carpet. I put a new belt, the belt that it came with, which was a total pain in the ass. I said words that I never have said in my entire life trying to put that belt into this vacuum. It was such a pain. You can see how thin this vacuum is. Even though they're thin, looks can be deceiving because these do not really recline that far back and maintain contact with the carpet. You can see it'll lift itself up. I don't know if it'll kind of drop itself back down a little bit, but you can see that there's a big old open gate in the front of the vacuum where it's not gonna touch the floor when you're vacuuming. So we're gonna give this a whirl, get this corrected. There we go. Hopefully that didn't turn the whole video upside down. Oh, yep. So you can hear the motor runs perfect. It runs great. It doesn't seem to be, woo, there it goes. It really likes to grab that edge of the carpet, but you can see that light just does not want to work. It does not want to work with me. I don't know if it's a grounding issue or what it is. It does not have a smell at all. Sorry if you're an epileptic. So I'm not really sure what is up with the bulb on this vacuum. It just, I want to say that it's the bulb itself, but I've never seen flickering like that, and it just happens to be the bulb's fault. So it's not a loud vacuum at all. I do believe this is a 2-stage motor, but I'm not too sure. The reason I say that is because this thing was made way back. I have a feeling that Panasonic did not pedal out the same Tri-Force motor for years and years and years and call it a day. I really don't. The Tri-Force motor itself sounds very good. And I was watching another YouTuber's Panasonic video where they had a blue Panasonic Performance Plus Platinum, newer than this. It didn't have the vertical writing, and it was not, I don't think it was as old as this machine is. And I think they had the nicer handle on it. But regardless, um, they had mentioned that they didn't like the sound of single stage motors, but then they said later on that, oh, it's not as bad as they thought. I really don't think that this has that single stage high pitch sound. Maybe over time, Panasonic started to create something else. I know their inducer motor that Kenmore has had for years is basically a Triforce motor, if I'm correct, or if I have the understanding correct. And that sounds totally different from this machine. But again, I could be wrong about assuming that they vamped the Triforce motor up over the years. Maybe they went with a single stage motor. I would love if somebody could fill me in on what the Triforce means, for one. And two, I would really appreciate if somebody could tell me what age this Panasonic is. I would love to know that, because I'm assuming it's not as old as I think that it is, but I have a feeling it's at least 10 to 15 years old, maybe older. So please let me know, and thanks for watching. I hope Panasonic Vac, sorry for saying your name, but I hope he sees it and, fills me in, because there's just certain people who follow certain vacuum brands and they just seem to know a lot, and I would assume he would know about this machine, hence the name. So thank you guys for watching, and drop a comment below and let me know what you think.